Bihari. Sri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Vishwam Supadis Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana Ki Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagvatam Ki Bolo Sri Sri Krishna Baldao Ki Jai Gau Premanandi. All glories to thee, Samravati. All glories to thee, Samravati. All glories to thee, Samravati. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from Srimad Bhagvatam, first canto, chapter 9, the passing away of Bhismadev. Text number 26. Purusha Sva Bhava Vihitan Yatha Varnan Yatashramam Vairagya Ragopadibhyam Amnatobaya Lakshanam. Oh, Lakshanan. Purusha Swabhava Vihitan Yathavarnam Yathashramam Vairagya Ragopadibhyam Amnatobaya Lakshanam. Purusha Swabhava Vihitan Yathavarnam Yathashramam Vairagya Ragopadibhyam Amnatobaya Lakshanam. Purusha Swabhava Vihitan Yathavarnam Yathashramam Vairagya Ragopadibhyam Amnatobaya Lakshanam.
Purusha
Ladies? Purusha, the human being. Svabhava, by his own acquired qualities. Vihitan, prescribed. Yata, according to. Varna, classification of castes. Yata, according to. Ashramam, orders of life. Vairagya, detachment. Raga, attachment. Upadibhyam, out of such designations. Amnata, systematically. Ubaya, both. Lakshanan, symptoms. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bithane first defined all the classification of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Translation, please repeat. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhismadev first defined all the classification of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life, as planned by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 4:13, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act accordingly to get free from material bondage or conditional life. In almost all the Puranas, the same subject matter is described in the same spirit. And also in Mahabharata, it is more elaborately described by Bhishmadev in the Shanti Parv, beginning from the 60th chapter. The Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self-realization is distinguished from life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhismadev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. 1, not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to equally distribute wealth. 4, to forgive. 5, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7, not to be inimical toward anyone. 8, to be simple. And 9, to support servants or subservience. So we'll read these again. These are advices for all human beings. 9 qualifications. 1, not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to equally distribute wealth. 4, to forgive. 5, to beget children by one's legitimate wife. 6, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. And 7, not to be inimical towards anyone. 8, to be simple. And 9, to support servants and subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above-mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides these, the brahmanas, the intelligent men, the administrative men, the mercantile community, and the labor class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially of Srimad Bhagvatam and of Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic literatures, one must approach a person who is 10% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriyas, the member of the administrative class, is especially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstances. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions, but never give charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras, but must not take to the profession of teachers. This is all in italics. The administrators should never pretend to become nonviolent and thereby go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become a nonviolent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of nonviolence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of voting background. Numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the warfield. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and labor men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile communities, are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk production, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuff are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatris were given charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given charge of the protection of animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruits, and milk are sufficient and complete foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grains, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of a class of vested interests and keeps thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. The Sudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering sincere service to the three higher sections of society. The Sudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes, especially enjoined that a Shudra should never bank money. As soon as a Sudra accumulates wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. All in italics. Wine, women, gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Sudra quality. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Sudras. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Sudras, and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Sudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servant satisfied in all respects. The Sudras must first of all be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer is not simply fed or given charity, clothing, etc. Laborers are thus dissatisfied, and so they make agitation. The Varna, so to speak, classification of different occupations, and ashram dharma is gradual progress on the path of self-realization. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashram dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The brahmacharya ashram is the training ground for prospective candidates. In this ashram, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living entity. The conditioned souls are under material bondage, are prisoners. The conditioned souls under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore self-realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of ashram dharma is meant for detachment. One who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment is allowed to enter family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely renounce, and live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep body and soul together for ultimate realization. Household life is for one who is attached, and Vanaprastha and Sannyasa orders of life are for those who have detached from material life. Brahmacharya ashram is especially meant for training both the attached and the detached. There's a powerful purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said everything is here in first canto. Purusha swabhava vihitan yatha varnam yathasramam vairagya ragupadibhyam amnatobhaya lakshanan. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhismadev first defined all the classification of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparandiyam Adadanastranandantai Vidam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual masters opened my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Therefore I offer my humble obeisances at his lotus feet. So this is an amazing scene. Here Bhishmadev is lying on the bed of arrows, about to end his life. It's interesting that we're studying this portion of Srimad Bhagvatam right now, because that day when Bhishmadev left this world is coming. Usually it comes on 14th of January, but this year Makar Sankranti is coming on 15th of January. And that is the day Bhishmadev, because sun is now moving in the north, so he, at that time, by his own will, he left his body. But despite his precarious position, he's lying on a bed of arrows, about to end his life. He's giving amazing instructions to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Just like we have seen on the video, Srila Prabhupada was nothing but skin and bones, but still he's speaking the purports to Srimad Bhagvatam. And those purports, if you read the last purports that Prabhupada wrote, they're completely clear. We can't imagine in such a position. Even the Ayurvedic doctor was saying he should be in excruciating pain. But the devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all situations. The great devotees, anyway. So here he's describing about the system of Varnashram Dharma, which is very much misunderstood. And sometimes this false theory is presented that this was created by the Brahmins to dominate society. But here Prabhupada quotes chapter 4, verse 13. Chaturvarnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasa. He said, Chaturvarnam maya srishtam. Maya means my. The Lord is speaking personally in Bhagavad Gita. He says, I have created this system. And Prabhupada very elaborately explains it is meant to bring the living entity to self-realization. Prabhupada said one cannot be civilized without being part of the Varnashram system. And he very elaborately describes the 4 Varnas and 4 ashrams. The intelligent class of men, they're meant to, first of all, Prabhupada says here, control their senses. Because all the other Varnas, they're engaged in sense gratification. But the Brahmanas have to present a sattvic life of first qualification, controlling the senses. And Brahman means the intellectual class of men. And Prabhupada points out here that in the modern education we only examine the educational qualification, but not the moral character of the teacher. Therefore, the whole education system is going to hell. Because this is one of the reasons why we were rebellious young people in the late 60s and early 70s. But we accepted discipline from Prabhupada because we saw that he was telling one thing and he was doing the same thing. All our parents and teachers were telling us, don't smoke and don't drink. They were all smoking and drinking. The intellectual class of men has to set the example for society. Therefore, they must be sense-controlled, peaceful. All the qualifications are described there in Bhagavad Gita. To set an ideal. The other varnas, they may not be able to come up to that standard, but at least they should see the standard, and by seeing that standard, they respect. Nowadays, the only respect is given to money. If somehow, anyway, anyhow, by illegal means or anyway, anyhow, anybody's got money, he's respected. The Brahmins are meant to be simple. Brahmins are meant to be, here the qualification described, very simple. But nowadays, the qualification of a great person is if he's got money. Doesn't matter how he got that money, doesn't matter how he uses that money or misuses that money. As long as he's got money, he's respected in society. But a Brahmin should be very simple and be sense-controlled. Because we will follow example more than precept. If we see someone preaching one thing and doing the opposite thing, then we will be more inclined, he's doing, why should I follow his instruction? He's also doing. Just like we had one neighbor one time, and actually he's a neighbor of my friend, and they came home one day and they found the 7-year-old boy was lying in the bed, smoking a cigarette, drinking beer, watching TV, and they said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm being a daddy." Your father may be saying that don't do like this, but what we will follow? We'll follow what he says or what he does. The Brahmins have to set the examples for society. And they must live only in charity. They can't be salaried. Salaried means Sudra. The only salaried person in all the 4 varnas is a Sudra. We may not like to hear that because we're all drawing our nice salary, but actually we're all Sudras. Kalo Sad Sudra Sambhava. As the Kshatriyas, next, they're meant to be chivalrous and give protection. Kshatriya. Kshat means harm and Triya means to deliver. Somehow or other, in this material world, there will always be troublemakers. The Kshatriyas are meant to curb down the troublemakers. There we see, because instead of the people being protected, the criminals are being protected. Almost every system is slanted toward the criminals. Therefore they have this slogan, crime doesn't pay, but they're finding out it does. Even if I get caught, somehow or other, I'll hire a good lawyer, and by some hook or crook I'll get free. Therefore we see in America everybody wants guns because they know the government is not going to protect them. But only the Kshatriyas were permitted to have guns or weapons, because they're meant for protecting the society from evil influences, nature of this material world. We don't have ideal situation in this material world. We can't expect, this material world is a prison house, so we can't expect an ideal situation here. It is filled with criminals. Therefore the government has to be strong, that the criminals are afraid to commit any crimes. The Kshatriyas must be very chivalrous. And as the nature of this material world, there's always some war going on. So Kshatriyas, here Prabhupada said, king, he must go in the battlefield, he must not return without wound. Now they sit nicely in their office and push little buttons and send all the young people off to the war fields. But Kshatriya means he must be there in the front, showing. Kshatriya means chivalrous spirit. He must show the example. And they're meant to administrate. And they're also not salaried. They're meant for, the Kshatriyas live by taxing the citizens. Just like Parjanya Maharaj, the father of Nanda Baba, Krishna's grandfather. Parjanya means cloud. Everyone was very happy under Parjanya Maharaj because he was just like a cloud. Just like we see, the cloud draws water from the earth, and then pours it down back on the earth to benefit. All living beings are sustained by rainfall. So, Parjanya Maharaj like that. He was taking taxes from the citizens, but he returned everything in form of so many welfare projects for the citizens. So Prabhupada said Kshatriya means he has to be trained properly. And here he says that Kshatriyas are meant for giving charity. They have so many Brahmin advisors, they're not salaried, but they give them charity. When they give good advice, they give them charity. Here Prabhupada explains now they simply collect donations from the people. To always raising campaign funds and so many things. But Kshatriya is meant to be independently wealthy. Not that he has to depend. The only dependent is a Sudra. Then the Vaishyas, first of all, they're meant to protect animals. Business and animal protection. In the modern society we see, unfortunately, sometimes even India is the #1 beef exporter in the world. I don't know what this a couple of years ago was. I don't know. It's always up and down. But this is most unfortunate. The land of Dharma is killing Dharma. But here Prabhupada says the first qualification of the Vaishyas is protection of animals. I think Shivaram Maharaj has some video. And he says 9 billion animals every day or every year, I can't remember. He gives some fantastic number. Prabhupada said this is a barbaric society that lives by killing animals. We're eating, I've been vegetarian for almost more than 50 years. And I'm not skinny and undernourished, but in fact overnourished. With foods, grains, wheat, milk, especially milk products. All these are the foods for human, fruits, vegetables, and especially milk. The other day in the farm, the verse was talking about how milk creates higher brain tissues. It nourishes higher brain tissues so we can understand the process of self-realization. So producing grains and distribution of those grains is a business of the Vaishyas. So they're also independent. They're not salaried people. And Sudras are meant to serve the higher class. And even they aren't salaried. It's described here, the Sudras are taken care of like children. If Sudra banks money, the next thing he will do, because he's the lowest down, we see a gradation of attachment. He's very much attached to wealth and fighting and prestige. The Vaishyas, they want to make lots of money. So Sudra means he's the lowest down class. He should be maintained like children. Children we lovingly maintain. Prabhupada said here in the Yagyas, the kings that would distribute charity amongst even the servants and Sudras. so that they felt satisfied. Just like a child, we maintain the child with love. But somehow people have got this idea caste system means, of course it's not caste system, it's varnashram. Means exploitation. But the whole thing is based on love, on bringing us to the platform of Krishna consciousness. The Sudras are meant for performing service. Nowadays it's completely topsy-turvy. The Sudras are the highest paid. Especially musical performances and dramatical performances, all this type of thing. Of course, those days it went cinema, but cinema comes under dramatical performance. These were all maintained by the kings in higher castes. But now we see they're the ones that have all the wealth. And we see their lifestyle is completely abominable. And everyone wants to follow that. Therefore the whole society is going to hell. Or actually Prabhupada said already gone to hell. The whole society has gone to hell. Because there's no proper training of these of the human society. Then here Prabhupada describes the ashrams, varna and then ashram. And the whole, once we study the ashrams, we understand the purpose is detachment. His first life is brahmachari life. Brahmachari life means no sex life, no sense gratification. Very simple life. So that one can learn that, or he's trained that this material world is not our real house. This is our temporary situation. We're meant to go back to the spiritual world. So those who can catch up, they can remain celibate, then that's very amazing. But most people will enter into the grihastha life, but at least they've been trained that even in the grihastha life they have to be somewhat reserved. Your Prabhupada says even sex life is, though it's allowed in the grihastha life, it still also has to be controlled. And the grihasthas are, the Prabhupada gives the organization like a body. They're like the belly. The whole body runs on the belly. The belly is supplying everything. So brahmacharis, they have no business. They beg on behalf of the spiritual master and turn everything over to the spiritual master. But grihasthas are meant to, they have to support their families, but they support the whole society. Because the sannyasis and brahmacharis and vanapras, they all live on charity. Only the Vaishya, the grihastha ashram is meant for making money and distributing money. Then vanapras means again trying to become more detached from this material world and preparing for going back to home, back to Godhead. And final fourth order sannyas means giving up attachment completely to this material world, preparing. Now we're at the fag end of the life. We should prepare for going back to home, back to Godhead. So Prabhupada said this is civilized societies. And Prabhupada was always saying that this was half of his mission was to establish Varnashram Dharma. How we'll do it, even I don't have the answers, but we have to study and see the principles involved. And know that we should know this is the ideal situation. So this is one of the most amazing purports in whole of Srimad Bhagvatam. In this first canto, Prabhupada, he didn't know whether he would finish. So he put everything in this first canto. This is interesting, these 9 things again. Let's read that again. Let's come later in this chapter because it's not in this verse. But Prabhupada said, Bhismadev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. Not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to be equally distribute wealth. Not exactly sure what that means. 4, to forgive, but at least to be charitable. 4, to forgive. 5 to beget children only by one's legitimate wife. 6 to be pure in mind and hygienic in body. 7 not to be inimical towards anyone. And 8 to be simple. And 9 to support servants and subordinates. It's a very interesting purport. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Regarding the varnas, like within our society, like people who are in occupation of Vaishya or as well as Sudra, we give initiation, like we give Brahmana initiation. So simultaneously they are working as a outside as well as they are also given Brahmana initiation. So how can you understand that?
Well, the whole gist here is to come to self-realization. All the ashrams are divided, varnas and ashrams are divided, all with different duties to make the society peaceful, to come to the point of self-realization. So Prabhupada explains that actually this Brahman Diksha was given to the higher varnas to gradually bring us to the platform, because the whole thing is to bring us to the spiritual platform. Someone may be initiated with Gayatri Mantra, but doesn't mean automatically he's Brahman, because here it says Swabhava. This is a very important word in this verse, according to his character. Because sometimes we point at the caste Brahmins, but you should know that when you're pointing like this, 3 fingers pointing back at you, are you actually developing qualities of Brahman or not? So it's meant that all the higher classes of men should gradually develop spiritual qualifications. Even if they're performing Vaishya activities, but gradually the whole process is to bring us to the platform of Vaishnava. Vaishnava is above all the castes and creeds. We see the whole society is organized just for self-realization. Brahmacharis, they have nothing to do but study. The Vanaprasthas also go on pilgrimage. Sannyasis is meant to travel and preach. So only one varna, one ashram is meant for material activities. The whole thing is to gradually bring us to the platform of spiritual life, self-realization. Any questions? Both within and without. He said we're seeing we see devotees having so many troubles in their spiritual life. So Prabhupada wanted also, how we'll bring it about, the society is totally organized upside down and backwards. So I don't have the answers. Devotees are studying. One thing I understand is not meant that some people think Varnashram means just farm, Varnashram. But we see there was big cities, like Dwarka was a huge city, so it's also meant for the cities. And how we're going to come to a more simple society is we're all very comfortable in our artificial way of life. But we see the present so-called civilization can't go on forever. It's using up more energy than the planet can possibly produce. So we're headed back to the farms anyway, whether we want to go or not. So there's no other questions. We can all fall down at the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality who gave instructions just like Bhishmadev on the bed of arrows. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just a quick announcement. At 11:30 a.m. for the Sunday feast class, we have a special guest, His Grace Narasimha Kavacha Prabhu. So he'll be giving the class. The topic is Krishna is Chaitanya. So if you're here at that time, or if you're planning to leave, please try and come back for that class at 11:30. We also have a couple of programs later in the day. At 4 p.m., we have a program in Tungabi with Dinabandhu Prabhu. Prabhu will be speaking on the topic, how to transform any place into Vrindavan, which is a very interesting and wonderful topic. So especially if you live in that area, please try and come for that. But we also have another program in Sydney Southwest in the Glenfield, Macquarie Fields area. Narasimha Kavacha Prabhu will be speaking about how to understand the pastimes of the deities. So if you live in that area, please take advantage of that as well. We have a number of programs going on around Sydney today, so depending on where you are and your availability, please try and take advantage of them as much as possible. Thank you. Hare Krishna.